You're very welcome. I mean, we are very happy to have you over here.
Turn off the mic here.
Sure.
Does it affect the video record?
No, I think it will be fine. We'll see. Yes.
That's good.
Good. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you. It's great to be here, and I'm very excited to talk about how I have explored the novel human-centered experiences through research and design. And today I'm also highlighting the social and technical issues while I'm designing health information systems. And I recently joined the National Institute of Science and Technology, UNIST, in Korea, and it's newly established institution, and it is specialized for science and technology. And I work for the Department of Design and Human Engineering. And it is an interdisciplinary department emphasizing the integration of the human experience and the design of the technology. Okay, so feel free to interrupt me at any time if you have any questions. And I'd like to start talking about background to show why I highlighted the human-centered aspect of technology. My original background, it was in industrial design, where I learned about how to make a usable and useful product from toothbrushes to mobile phones. And then I learned over the past years of my PhD study at Georgia Tech, I explored the human-centered technology and service design to improve our health, communication, and everyday lives. I want to say human-centered design should be data-driven. So in our daily life, we are interacting with many of the products and producing a lot of data from explicit micro interactions such as touches, eye gazes, clicks, to the implicit longer interaction traces like user locations, social network, and textual inputs. How do we use them to guide design? In other words, how might we translate these intangible user data into the tangible design product? So today I'm going to talk about these kinds of the way of translating the intangible user data into the tangible the design of the services and products. So here's the cycle of the user-centered design process from gaining user insight from formative research phase to design implementation and to summative research with the deployable technology. And the formative research aims to identify user needs, and this process results in a general design guides for implications for the new services or products. Based on the design guidelines, information architecture and interaction specifications and requirements of the services can be implemented. And this leads to end user product. And then the implemented prototype should be evaluated whether it is useful or not useful. And in this summative research phase, it is often to investigate how users interact with the deployable technology in the real-world setting. And the results may lead to the user experience and service improvement or redesign of the existing technology. And well, this process is not linear and it's more iterative. So the findings from the summative research may produce some interesting insights into the not only improving existing technologies, but also designing innovative services. And it can be explored in the next formative research phase. Now, I want to provide my research project to exemplify each phase. The first phase I will discuss is gaining user insight from formative stage to translating these insights into the potential new services. Video prototyping of the potential new service is the method to elicit stakeholders' feedback in this space. So let's assume that you are interested in designing an innovative technology to something interesting to you. Like in this context, I discussed my dissertation work, designing innovative technology to support individuals with high-functioning autism to live more independently. There's no service widely used for these populations. If so, how to gather user needs about the new technology that has not yet exist, or these users with autism particularly have some difficulties in communications with others. With these difficulties, what's the best way to elicit their feedback? So that's my starting point. The target population I studied was a young adult with autism, and 1 out of 68 children has been diagnosed with autism, and these children has been in the transition to the independent life, but still require a lifetime support from their caregivers. So it's a chronic, autism is a chronic condition affecting their everyday life and the entire life stages of these children. So they are relying on a small selected caregivers, mostly their mothers, and these caregivers are often overburdened. So even for the high intellectual individuals, navigating everyday life is the challenge. So Dr. Sheldon Cooper says,
you may not realize it, but I have difficulty navigating certain aspects of daily life. You know, understanding sarcasm, feigning interest in others, not talking about trains as much as I want to. It's exhausting, which is why, for 20 minutes a day, I like to go down to that room, turn my mind off, and do what I need to do to recharge.
What are you doing in there?
What does 43 mean? You don't need to know. You don't deserve to know. And you will never know.
Yeah, so for some individuals, the autism is nearly invisible and seems like a socially awkward. So it is still difficult for them to understand the hidden social norms and rules to manage their life. So they are facing a lot of unexpected life situations that are hard to understand and that are hard to expect. So therefore, I content that looking at such kinds of the adult on high-functioning autism spectrum is important, and enhancing their behavior with the technology became the focus of my research. Whenever I say individuals with autism here in my talk, I mean adult on the high-functioning autism spectrum. So how technology might help these individuals with autism? So existing technology actually focuses on supporting an individual in a fixed environment, like repetitive training to obtain basic life skills. But life is filled with some unexpected complex social situations. So technology should be able to address a variety of life situations and support not only the individuals, but also overburden the primary caregivers in a long term. That is my the point. So why not addressing these issues with social computing? So when I'm saying social computing, I mean computational system capable of building a social network and facilitating communications like a computer-mediated communication medium and social media and the online communities. These technologies are accessible day-to-day basis, anywhere and anytime. So when unexpected situation happen, you don't need to worry about making an appointment to a certain person to ask for help. Also, such computer-mediated communication systems are particularly good for the people who feel the pressure under the face-to-face interactions, like the individuals with autism are afraid of making eye contact. So social networking capabilities connect people with who can provide help and help you reach out some various type of the social network. You don't need to always ask help from your primary caregiver. So different kinds of the social relationships, from strong ties like family and friends, weak ties like their classmates and staff, and even like non-ties who is for the online buddies, are supported by the social computing systems. So this type of the social relationship framework actually borrowed from famous social science literature, The Strengths of the Weak Ties by Granovetter. And so I propose the design of system that helps the users navigate their everyday life by seeking help from different kinds of social ties I mentioned. And then I call these kinds of the system as a socially augmented assistive technology, specialized for the individuals with autism who are struggling with understanding the social norms in their social world and making a social relationship with others. And this is the social meter. Social meter is an instance of the socially augmented assistive technology. And as a result of the entire research process, I proposed a design concept named called social meter. And social meter is a specialized social networking system that allows the young adult to seek advice from a network of the family, friends, and the professionals around them. So this concept has been implemented using a Facebook API, and then I produced a usage scenario of this prototype. And this also has been presented to this in 2012. And then I created a video prototyping speculating various situations of the individuals with autism and how they use it. So first, look at this scenarios.
David sees the schedule on the mirror and notices that he has a job interview at 1 p.m. He takes a picture and sends it to the social network. His friend Gabby gets a notification that David asks for help. A white button-down shirt with a collar and a blazer would be better for your interview. David can check the feedback and take it into consideration. David is excited to join his friend's potluck party. His sister checks David's schedule for tomorrow. She notices that David is going to a party. She says, "Why don't you bring a pizza to the potluck? Your friends will be happy if you bring something to share." David receives a reminder about his friend's potluck party with the comment. His teacher, Laura, sets up a comment to be sent at the start of the party. He gets an alert when he arrives. It's okay that you're early. People are likely to arrive late to parties. You can spend some time talking to your host and helping him set up.
So I actually articulated, using this video type, I articulated what kinds of the support might require and how can social networking technology address these the challenges they have. So social meter was my first PhD study derived from the various design activities. And the activities involved the interviews and observation of the potential stakeholders, including more than 18 autistic individuals and their caregivers and teachers. I conducted a focus groups as well to evaluate the effectiveness of the social meter. And then the preliminary findings led to the design of the video prototype I just played. And then I used the video prototype to prompt a discussion for the stakeholders who have some communication difficulties. Participants discussed how social media might or might not address their needs and what's the potential risk of the using such kind of social networking systems in their daily life. Like for instance, the privacy issues and some conflict of the interest or conflict of the differing ideas from the differing the caregivers who have some different perspectives. So I produced the design guidelines and detailed features of the design the specialized social networking system using stakeholders feedback based on their needs and concerns using the bigger prototype. So in conclusion, the social mirror was a design prototype, and the bigger prototyping of the social mirror was a thought-provoking tool to uncover my stakeholders' needs. And prior to the developing fully functioning prototype, these kinds of the video prototyping methods facilitated the communication with potential customers, as well as it allows the early stage of the user experience requirement gathering before creating a fully functioning prototype. But the formative study gathered the following generated the following research question related to the deployment of existing technologies for asking how can existing social networking tools provide contextualized advice and expanded the online support network memberships for these individuals with autism. So okay, let's assume that we have some deployable social networking service and prototype now, and even if it is existing service, and we want to know that whether the service is user-friendly and what are the shortcomings of the current service and how might we improve the service. So I will explain the next phase using a series of the rapid deployment studies of the existing social networking services. So as I provided an example in the first phase, I also use my dissertation research as an example of my project within the phase of the second phase. The goal of the project was to empirically investigation on how individuals with autism use a social network system for help seeking from online social network. And you can replace the phrase in the bracket to fit into your research method, but the core question here are that how might we capture user interactions on a social networking system, and what types of the user data should be collected to identify design challenges and opportunities in these settings. And here's the the process of the rapid deployment of the mobile-based social network systems, and it's a starting point to study our users in a real-world setting, how they use the actual social networking service. And I want to give more specific context of this work. This is the second project followed by the social media project. The design guides provided by social media were based on somewhat my speculation. So I wanted to know whether the users could use the social network service in their real life, and how they interact with others using the SNS, and what's the impact of the SNS in their the information seeking behavior. And instead of the full custom applications, for the rapid deployment study, I repurposed a freely available mobile group message application named GroupMe for the rapid deployment study with 3 groups of the stakeholders, individuals with autism, their family members, and invited members online. And you can create some special groups and broadcast the message to that group, and each individual was linked with a small and predetermined group of the friends and family members to discuss their day-to-day issues or ask questions. And this work actually presented at KITE 2013. And the study allowed me to collect some various types of the data, interaction data. And from this, the social network log, I could see who are in the network and how users grow their network membership. And I could observe communication patterns, like who initiated a conversation and who responded to the question, and how long did it take to receive the response. Also, the analysis of the overall text provided on what's the dominant topic of the discussion, and this may be associated with the major concerns or interests of my study participants. So I conducted a 4-week field deployment with the 3 groups composed of each young adult with autism and primary caregiver and invited members. And all 3 individuals actually showed there's an increase in a closeness to the extended members, like their family, friends, family members, or relatives, or friends of the mother, while there's no change or slight decrease in a closeness to their primary caregiver. And I believe that this is a positive signal that might relieve the concern of the over-reliance on a primary caregiver by increasing some relationship with extended members. And then I want to show some another interesting case of my study. So one of our participants got a part-time job interview offer, and he posed a query about what he should prepare for the interview. And then right after he posted the questions, the members suggested a lot of some interview tips, like have you researched the company that you are going to interview with, and then ask for details regarding their training for new employees, and ask if you to be working with in a group or by yourself. Ask when they will be making hiring decisions, like that. And both our participants named Andrew and his mother liked the fact that he got a multiple replies very fast, and then tips from the multiple members like aunt and other family members provide a various perspective on some same matters. So not only the SNS log data, I collect the qualitative and subjective data through the questionnaire and interview to understand the perceived benefits and challenges about the use of this the SNS. And the increased connectivity to the people who can provide advice was the real benefit of the use of the group meeting. However, because the nature of the group messaging system or nothing, there's no way to manage the message traffic. So regardless the participant's interest or availability, messages in the group message chat room cause the heavy message traffic in my cell phones. So there's some evidence that one of the invited members asked to drop out of the studies because of it causes a lot of the message traffic on her cell phones. So based upon this the design findings, I've suggested several design features to improve the group messaging applications. I will not discuss the details today, but one of the examples of the redesigning of the mobile group messaging user experience is that to allow the users to be opted in or opted out the group discussion thread temporarily, or the system automatically visualize the members' availability to chat and when they will be ready to chat, like that. So the study with GroupMe provided some interesting insight into the modification of the current user experience of the mobile existing group messaging applications, especially in the context of supporting individuals with autism, like they're supporting their information-seeking behavior. However, this study with the small sample of the users for a month might not be representative. So if we want to see how a large number of the users interact with our service, how might we collect the data? So this is the reason I conducted an empirical investigation of the web-based online discussion forum, where the large number of the users generated interesting interaction data. Actually, this work consists of the 2 parts, like understanding their question and answer behavior in the Autism Online Forum, and it has been reported in Pervasive Health 2015 paper. And then I also include add the crowdsourcing part, and then the result of the crowdsourcing study has been reported to CHI 2015. And this is the web forum used by the autistic individuals to discuss their lives with autism. I don't reveal the name of the community, but I wanted to uncover their question and answer patterns through the web forums. And the forum actually provided a rich data set like interaction patterns, interaction histories, and text and question and answer data. And by manual coding and automatic topic modeling techniques with collaboration of the natural language processing researchers, I analyzed the 1955 the 1,555 35 threads, and this has been reported to the as a like a mining themes and interest in Asperger's and the autism community paper. And here's the example of the questions that we are coded for. So in this forum, question asking is the dominant behavior. Question address a variety of the everyday activities like how to manage your social relationships, and then how to answer a job interview questions, and how to dress for the interviews, and financial management, and then health, and all those kinds of questions. So I scrapped all the the thread related to question and answer behavior, and then analyzed it. And this form actually mainly used it as a question and answer practice because 66% thread initiated with the questions, and people seek for advice on everyday activities, as I told you. And however, getting the first response takes time, 21 hours old to receive on first answer on average. So how might we generate some rapid and effective answers from a wider set of the responders beyond the forums? This is one of the research questions. So part of the answer is crowdsourcing. Unlike the social networking service where the people seek out each other, the crowdsourcing system seek out people from the variety of the backgrounds. So Imagine Mechanical Turk is the well-known platform for paid crowd workers, crowdsourcing. So the requester pays small amount of the monies, like 5 cents, to complete tasks like labeling an image and transcribing audio files like that. And then to increase the speed of the receiving the answers, what if we pay workers to generate answers to questions asked by the autism forum members? This is one starting point of the crowdsourcing studies. And to crowdsource answers, I randomly selected 20 question sets from the autism forum I previously studied, and I set the questions to the Mechanical Turk. And then I generated 400 answers by paying 20 cents for each answer. Then I collected all the answers and then compared those answers original from answers and the crowdsourced answers qualitatively and quantitatively. And the different types of the panels evaluated the forum answers and crowdsourced answers using different measures. Panels were 6 adults on the autism spectrum, and then people working for the autism like counselors and researchers on the field. And then we first looked at the objective measures of the between the forum answers and the crowdsourced answers, like the length of the responses, how concise it is, and time to receive the first response, like how rapidly they get the response. And then we also look at some subjective matters of the answer's quality. For instance, directness, like those that answer directly address the questions, and information support related to suggestions, advice, and knowledge. And emotional support is related to empathy, concern, encouragement, and caring if there's some emotional support phrase. And then helpfulness is overall quality of the answers, like rated in 1 to 5, like poor and excellent. And it's actually evaluate the value of the answers. And this is the example of the questions posted by a forum user who seeks advice on dealing with noisy neighbor, like a noisy neighbor makes me insane. Any advice? I've got a new neighbors who live above us and who seem to love having parties. It was like 1 a.m. and the music and their screaming is only getting louder. It was driving me insane. Any advice? I haven't really encountered this problem much before. So he actually articulated his problems and then seek for some advice to deal with these kinds of stressful situations in the forums. And here's an example kinds of answer provided by another individual in the forum. It's an online body, like by a drunk kid with those neighbors falling asleep, and that's when you practice the living daylights out of the kids, negotiate with them after, say 3 or 4 sessions. It's hilarious. So this response is quite relevant to what's the question asked progress and something hilarious, but not sure how it is informative. And how it is helpful for those who tend to take things really seriously. You have questions?
Yeah, so do people who were participants, like those on the autism spectrum, they also appreciated the same kind of humor as, you know, other people?
It's out of scope of my studies. I don't know like whether they really appreciated the answers or not. Sometimes these kinds of answers make the communities very soft, and then kind of make us help them to make some connections with each other. But sometimes for those who take the matters very seriously or who understand the text literally, it is pretty risky that getting these kinds of the answers. So like I don't want to generalize the characteristics of the forums like this, but I wanted to show that how we rate answers along with the measures like we provided. And this is another example answer provided of crowd workers recruited by the Amazon Mechanical Turk. The worker says, first directly speak to the neighbor, and if you would be nervous, leave a respectable note. And if it does not work, ask your landlord to delegate it. And the answer provides direct some information and in a structured manner. And then also there's some emotional sentence that in the beginning, like I understand your frustrations, like noisy neighbors can be frustrated. And the panelists rated it as very helpful answer, like we did say 5. And more importantly, it just took just 3 minutes to get this kind of answer. And this is a general like a step of the comparison of the forum answers and Mechanical Turk answers. And the results show that crowdsourcing platform is way faster than the forum, like 2 to 3 minutes versus 21 hours on average. You may be concerned about the quality of the answers provided by the strangers who might not have some personal connections with the question asker. But the overall quality of the answers is as good as the forum answers, even better the forum answers by looking at the helpfulness of scale. And more interestingly, the crowd workers provided some emotional support. Provided some helpful and informational and concise information without most of the emotional support. Like we are actually, there's some evidence that the crowd workers provide some emotional support by providing some sympathy. Like you are not alone having these problems, and it's natural to worry. Everyone worries about the loved ones sometimes. Like no one like going to the dentist like that. It's not because of your autism. Everyone has the same problems. So in conclusion, the crowdsourcing can enhance the autism forum question answer experiences by offering quick responses throughout the day and providing direct and informational support and helpful advice without compromising emotional value. and the crowd workers also provided some actionable advice with concise language. So now I'm going to tell you how the crowdsourcing study results lead to the new design opportunities. So how might we integrate the crowdsourcing feature into the everyday Q&A experience of the individuals with autism? So I do not want to replace the forum, but I consider crowdsourcing as a supplementary approach to enhance their experience of the question and answer, and I want to improve their experiences through the mixture of the forum and crowdsourced support by motivating to seek help from the crowds and finding a way to foster trust in the strangers. First of all, as I addressed, crowd provide rapid and actionable answers, almost a live remote support like a hotline. So a feature like submitting of questions to the crowd can be embedded to the community to garner fast and effective answers if necessary. So who is going to pay for that's the one issue. Like I mean, we actually, as a researcher, we pay for these kinds of services as a study, but we have discussed about kind of philanthropic work, like where people who are willing to give some provider without getting any the monetary values, but people who get some kind of their the emotional values by helping others. So our results indicated strangers were able to provide some direct and helpful answer, but it still does not mean that the caregivers would be comfortable with all the crowdsourced answers from the strangers. So to increase the trust, we can imagine a system to train the crowds before accepting the task, or we can recruit the specialized crowds, as I told you, like for interested in the volunteer job, like caregivers, autism professionals, to validate answers. So I'm expecting that there's a kind of some people who are generally interested in providing their time or their research on information, like by participating in these kinds of micro online volunteer work. And then there's some people who can validate answers from the strangers, like who have some expertise in autism, like autism professionals, and then their caregivers. So in my crowdsourcing studies, actually, I also collected all the demographic information of the crowd workers. And then interestingly, more than 50% of the crowd workers, they have some experience with autism, like their family members had or kids having some autism, or they are work for autism, like that. So we can leverage those kinds of special people to validate the crowd answers. So I believe that these kinds of quick deployment of existing technology allows the researchers to gather a variety of the customers' mobile and social interactions data in the real world. And it also allows us to translate the study results into the user experience improvement of the existing services or creation of the new customer experiences. And lastly, I want to discuss the phase of the developing mobile user experience for the end user product. And in this phase, I leveraged my design skills to establish this information architecture of the services and prototype end user product. Sorry, I want to have the water. So, as a part of my dissertation study, I designed a special autism question asking forum named Inquire Us, and enhanced by a feature of the crowdsourcing. So this system is implemented based on the implications I got from the previous studies of the mobile SNS and the web forums and crowdsourcing studies. And the rapid deployment and empirical studies led to the new design opportunities, hybrid the Q&A system, combining a web forum with the crowdsourcing. So as I told you, I suggest a hybrid question-answer platform where an individual with autism can ask of the friends, teachers, and even crowd workers named trusted strangers when navigating everyday life and when they are facing some difficult situations or when they are seeking for some information or advice to overcome that kinds of the problems. When I'm saying hybrid, I mean that a combination of the predetermined personal network with the crowdsourcing features to increase likelihood of getting rapid, relevant, and informational answers while balancing the trust with their existing social network members. So in order for the crowdsourcing feature to work on the web and mobile forums named Inquirers, an agent is needed to deliver the questions and answers between the inquirers and then the crowdsourcing platform. So it's not like a mechanical turk, because I actually use the specialized crowdsourcing platform named Crowdsourcing. And as a easiest solution for the initial field trial, I decided to manually integrate a crowdsourcing mechanism, which means I acted as the kinds of the wizard oaths to delegate questions to the product flower and collecting the answers and validating the answers by using the metrics that I have developed, like directness, informational, and emotional, and helpfulness rating scales. And I collected answers and validated answers based on measures, and also curated the answers. And then for the field trial, I worked with the special needs school in Atlanta last December. The school has the young adult transition program, and then I wanted to leverage this pre-existing community. So the program's focus areas at the time was navigating the city with public transportations and interacting with the public. So the school director actually wanted to use the Inquirers to support their students, especially to support the questions relevant to their independent training focus. Then I generated the implications for the design such kinds of the Q&A service specialized for the end users, but I'm not reporting all the results today, and I'm preparing the manuscript and hope to share the results soon. And then the main contribution as a design researchers in this implementation phase, it was the specifying information architecture and the user experience storyboard. And then the conducting field trial with the end users by implementing minimum viable the product or the customer-centered product. So in summary, so as a user experience and researcher and designer, I explored the cycle of the human-centered services design phase. First, I uncovered the user needs and concerns through the empirical studies with the video prototype like a social media. And second, I rapidly produced the visualization and information architecture and the user experience scenarios to support the engineers in implementing the minimum viable product like Inquirers. And then with this product or existing technologies that I'm interested in, I conducted a rapid field deployment study like a GroupMe and the autism forum studies and crowdsourcing platforms. I collected the user data and analyzed the data qualitatively and quantitatively. And there's a lot of things to do as a design researcher armed with data. So I do design mediated by the data gathered from different research methods like video prototyping, quick interaction design and visualization, and rapid deployment studies. And I hope to use my skills to identify some interesting research spaces on some designing human-centered technology, and to collaborate with some other researchers and engineers to effectively define and develop the innovative sub-services. Further research domain I'm really interested in around some appropriate user experience of the personal health informatics device for the seniors and other disadvantaged populations. And the other domain I'm currently exploring is the depression of the college students and positive use of the social computing systems to mitigate those kinds of mental issues. And here are my collaborators, and now I'm happy to taking on questions.
Hi. I really enjoyed your talk, and I think this is a really important topic. I'm really interested in the usefulness of services, and I would love to hear the results of your user studies, you know, and how effective it is. But let me just express a couple of things that I wonder about that might be issues. For example, the example of the guy right in the middle of the night, and there are his neighbors up there having a really loud party. It's making him nuts. And the question is, what kind of an answer is helpful to help somebody right then, right? Telling them, I mean, yes, the first, you know, going up and talking to them, you could try to go do that and go and try to do it politely. Going to the landlord is not really the action for the middle of the night.
Right.
So I think that one of the differences between these questions and what's suitable as an answer is going to have to do with the time frame.
Right, right.
And the other example of this, the other thing that I worry about is that people on the autistic spectrum, as they now like to say, are so different in terms of their problems and what they can understand. And so I worry that the answers that a lot of people like are generic. You know, they're not really addressed to an individual. And I see it as, you know, less of a problem. You know, I thought your transportation, you know, was really helpful. I'm here stuck on the street and I have to get from here to here, and what do? I don't, you know, how do you find somebody to talk to, and what questions do you ask them, and all that kind of stuff. You know, the other one, especially the question of how do I get ready to be, you know, I'm afraid to be in front of people, and how do I appear in front of a groomsman, as a groomsman, that's really, you know, for somebody to answer that question who doesn't know very much about that person's history and that person's strengths and weaknesses. My question is, how helpful do you think this kind of device could be?
Right. So one of the weaknesses of this study is that, like, we are not returning to the original question asked, how they perceive the answers, helpfulness of the answers provided by the forum users and then the crowdsourcing
right,
users. So we really wanted to return to the original askers. But as a kind of some substance, the alternative way, we actually invited the autism raters who can rate the helpfulness and quality of answers based on their personal experience having on autism and some autistic experiences as well. So, and the issue, I'm actually totally understand that the answers qualities depends on the personal context and then personal characteristics. So one of the issues is that how much information we have to reveal to the responders to give more like contextualized information. But it also involves some kinds of issue of like privacy, and maybe the question asker does not want to reveal kind of some sensitive and personal matters. Also, we also found that there's some issue of like revealing too much information in the forums. Like we have to train the question asker how to make better questions. This is the one issue. So actually, the better question lead to better answers. So we wanted to the question asker to frame and formulate the better questions. So I didn't present here, but the inquirer us actually helped the individual with autism frame the questions, help them articulate what they are really need in this context. And
so what kind of help do you give people?
Right.
What kind of help do you give people in that situation in terms of formulating the question?
Right.
Sorry, I'm being so long.
So yeah, actually, the immediacy of the getting response is really important. So like we ask them to articulate the when they want to get the answers, as well as whom they want to get some answers. We actually asked the participants to classify the kinds of the responders they want to contact, like of their close friends or the total strangers. It depends on the class of the responders. So yeah.
Yeah, I also had a question about the crowdsourcing study. Two questions. One is, was the crowd informed that they were responding to autistic people? And the other was, how did you decide which of all of the crowdsourced responses were shown were chosen as an answer? Okay, so the answer you showed was wonderful, right?
Right.
Okay, but there might have been 399 other answers. How did you choose that one?
That's the one of the question example, the answer example is the ideal example from the crowd workers. But we actually did the rating, the general measurement of all the forum answers and the mechanical answers by comparing 400 randomly collected randomly selected answers. So there's some interesting things that I want to show that some supplementary material. When I'm posting the questions to the mechanical Turk, we actually provide some instructions. So many individuals with autism actually asking a question in the forums. And then we are really wondering, we would like to know that whether people outside of the specific forum can provide answers for them. So we actually revealed that the fact that these questions actually created by the autistic individual, and then you need to be careful that providing some helpful answers. Actually, I think that motivated people to provide some positive and kind of quality answers. So this is the techniques to lead the crowd workers to have some appropriate answers in an appropriate manners and think about the autistic individuals.
Very much enjoyed your presentation. Very interesting to look at how you are kind of a design thinker, right, and how you're using a variety of methods to generate design, to develop a tool to provide information for the people who are asking for it. So my question is, and this is just to be playful, is what if you thought of the autistic person's design or problem as a design problem itself? In other words, they don't just need information, right? They're trying to figure out how to design solutions for the problems that they're having. So if you were to think about them as having a design problem, how would you support it instead of treating it as an information problem solely?
So how do you distinguish the information problem from the design problem?
I'm asking you to take all your great skills in design, and instead of thinking about you having the design problem, thinking about that person having a design problem, and how might that affect the way you support them?
Right, so it's not easy. I mean, the social media is the great example to kind of thought-provoking process for the designers. as well as the end users who will be affected by the services that I'm providing. So by including them in the kind of design process, I mean, I actually conducted several focus group interview sessions with these individuals with autism and their caregivers to design of this kind of social networking systems by seeing the video prototypes. Without having any provoking materials, they didn't talk, they stopped talking. So that's why I'm providing a lot of the visual mediums to encourage them to talk and to raise their issues by looking at some such kinds of design problems we are imagining. So this is one way how the design researchers having some journeys with these kinds of special populations.
Thank you. That's fun.
Right. I have two questions actually. You mentioned you actually also asked autism reviewers to read those answers, right? I'm wondering how different they rate compared to the normal. Or no, actually expert. Like you said that is that the physician or who is the counselor who actually read it? What is the difference among the two different kind of reading? This is related with the Vivek's answers, like how much they could appreciate, maybe comprehend those humor or those kind of.
So this is relationship, and then there's no the difference between the researchers themselves or individuals with autism and autism experts. Yeah, so I mean, people that thinking in some similar ways, like regardless they are having an autism or not having an autism. So, but we didn't,
That's really high. That's excellent.
Right. We didn't get to the individual with autism, how they actually value the emotional support part. So like this is one question.
Yeah. I have another question about the social mirror. So if I'm social mirror is that when you talk about this, it's the first time I read. So I searched online. There are a lot of social mirrors. I was wondering in your study, you actually did you improve the existing social mirror kind of support, or actually you design?
I design. I proposed the concept.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
I know like the social media. There's some other kind. I don't know like but these kinds of social media and these kinds of concept is I actually initiated.
Oh.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of online websites that actually provide this kind of a service, which is really amazing. So you actually you propose this idea and people start using it.
At the time I proposed the design and then the ideas, there's no social networking services, such kinds of the medium that help the individuals to initiate conversation using the everyday object. There's no like services or no design ideas using it.
Is it possible that other people independently develop the same idea?
There is social media theory. It's like.
I'd like to respond to Mark's comment. Actually, and related to something that you said, improving the description of the problem is actually a description of what would be a good design, right? And in fact, the answer to the person, about the neighbors upstairs is a design answer, not as it were. It helps the person to design right. So maybe thinking about how to improve the questions means, and in fact, the questions seem to me, the problems that they put up in the forum are quite discursive.
Yeah.
And describe a problem, not an information, as it were. Okay, so that kind of encouraging that kind of thing to go to outside seems to be likely to lead to design answers, if you will.
Right. So this that's why I always include these kinds of the some design implications at the end of my design the design research is actually I always propose that design kinds of improving the user experience or improving the information quality by adding some kinds of features or improving user experience. Like these kinds of the hotline button actually may increase the people reach out the people outside, or kind of some helping them to, providing some the question frame or scaffolding question creation, maybe help those people who have some difficulties in creating the better questions.
So just to follow up, yeah, I mean, I lacked the right words at the time, but this notion of was in part what I was driving towards in my own sense of how I would answer is helping them improve or develop the question asking itself,
right?
Which would be one version of where things could go, as opposed to just thinking it's a question and then we're going to just provide a bunch of answers there. Not discounting what Nick just said is that the questions themselves might focus on that, but it's this, this sort of interventional thing that actually was more in the social mirror thing that you presented. This is quite interesting. So it wasn't a challenge; it was just meant to play around.
Yeah, one issue is that sometimes people are not really motivated to initiate conversations. So like one interesting findings from the social media conversation is that they are really motivated to start the conversations just by taking pictures or using a very familiar medium in their everyday lives.
So it's a related thing, both work with interns here, but also in medical, the same version of the system in medical school, is this sort of question back and forth. There was the explicit part that was in it, but it helped surface sort of, what we call it, hidden curriculum. About, right. So there's a certain sense of what's appropriate, but that's not necessarily what's most effective. So maybe going up there and buying a drum set and making lots of noise would actually be the most effective thing to do
at that particular moment.
You know what?
But it's not the most appropriate thing to do.
You know what? Actually,
just a thought.
Not just for people with autism.
Generally, describing the hidden curriculums, how to make the repository of the social skills, training the social skills.
So
they're pretty simple interventions to that.
Actually, Ron's question is very good. It's like, because when I was reading all of the question and answers, I think normal people without autism also ask exactly the same thing. And then so, how actually, what is the difference between the answer for autism people or for the normal people? Or actually, it's really, Mark says, it's truly how you ask the questions for those people, right? So that's something I think I would like to know more.
But autism is again, my concern is that autism is a long-term condition. It starts when people are children and goes, sometimes they outgrow it, fortunately, but for the ones who don't outgrow it, it's really a long, and again, some of the questions, like maybe this one, feel to me like that's not a question that can be answered effectively by a quick, short answer, that it really requires somebody who understands the particular person's interests and experiences. And so there might be, and it's also not an emergency in that you need the answer at 3 o'clock in the morning. So that I wonder if you might need distinctions between questions like this and questions like, I'm on the street and I have to get from here to there and I don't know who to ask and I don't know how to do it. Right? That's an immediate question with a short-term scope. And, so they're two different classes of questions. And it seems to me that, sort of thinking as, in your design, thinking about helping with those more immediate short-term questions. There you can be really helpful because the person is stuck. If they can't call their mother, what are they going to do? Whereas the other, there's more time and answering it is really more complex.
That's for research. So I always think about the immediacy of the answers and then how help the question asker to articulate the immediacy of the answers. So yeah, that's very important.
Is there a therapeutic benefit to simply participating in these question-answer dialogues?
Right. So that's
all because you had many different kinds of question-answer dialogues throughout your story.
Yeah, that's why the Atlanta, the special school director is interested in using the question and answer system for their students to train them to ask questions appropriately, and then as well as getting some the advice from others, and then some kind of learn the turn-taking experiences for those people who are lacking the social skills.
Yeah, because it may be less important what advice they're getting about the noise from upstairs and the fact that I got to ask a question when I needed it, and I got some kind of response just as sort of diffusing the moment.
Look at the different kinds of options and then make some decisions by themselves, because it is the one kind of the training for stakeholder independence, like making a decision.
Exactly, and then over time, just it's sort of a social engagement, and so does that play itself out in their own therapy and improving, I engage like this, and it scaffolds some other behavior. I don't know, does that happen?
Yeah, actually, in a group we studied, the group messaging study, so the participants actually really excited that it break a trend of the social isolations. They actually started to talk to others by typing or by just asking questions. This is one positive aspect of using these kinds of social social answer systems, and also like those kinds of the social question and answer system also helps them to learn what is the general social rules and norms by looking at what is the kind of dominant of the answers. So among some choices there is some similar kinds of answers. So, and then they may understand that this is kinds of public approved the answers. Many people having some similar kinds of the aspect certain matters. So they may learn that kind of the implicit, the social rules by looking at others.
So what motivates you to study autism?
The simple answer is my advisor actually doing the researches on the kind of autism. But basically, in my personal history, my mother actually working for the rehabilitation centers, and then I was really interested in developing kinds of assistive technologies for people who is affected by some mental health issues, also physical health issues, and then also there's the fascinating moment that I combine assistive technology and social computing when I'm taking a class offered by Eric Gilbert. So this is a fascinating moment that I can generate some ideas related to social computing systems.
So I had one question. You introduced this notion of trusted strangers. So could you tell me a little bit more of what are the other options you considered? Especially I'm concerned whether it is trained stranger or it's a trusted stranger.
It's kind of some name that we are talking about the trusted strangers. Yeah, actually, when I'm talking to my participant, I don't want to emphasize that you will get the answers from total strangers. So I put that the trusted strangers, which means that the strangers will be filtered by the system first by meeting that certain requirement of the system of the crowdsourcing system requirement, as well as the answers will be validated and moderated by the existing social network members, like their practitioners. That's why I actually put the trusted strangers. But yeah, it's portray the term that I want to figure out what is on the longer.
I think you might be able to say that a trusted stranger, given a stranger, this stranger is more or less likely to be trusted based on characteristics of the social network, for instance, or by homophily, perhaps.
Yeah. So that's what I was trying to see if there was a notion of interpersonal trust, or it was organization, a central authority-based trust.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. All right. Thank you very much.